Ozzie Guillén was cancelled before cancel culture became a thing. Or was he? Oswaldo JOSÉ Guillén, the three-time All-Star, Gold Glover, and 1985 AL Rookie of the Year, was a glove-first shortstop for the White Sox in the mid-1980s to 1990s. However, the Venezuelan is most remembered for bringing a World Series championship back to the city of Chicago, but for the South Side, so no one noticed. Ozzie was hired to helm the Southsiders in 2004, a post he held until after the 2011 season. During this 8-year stretch, the White Sox finished over 500 5 times and made the playoffs twice, including winning that 05 championship. Now, this may not sound like much success, but let's be honest, if you're a White Sox fan, you'll take it. Throughout his White Sox tenure, Ozzie became known as a colorful character. He became an icon in the city of Chicago, a brash personality, unafraid to speak his mind. About his catcher, A.G. Persinski, Ozzie famously proclaimed, "If you manage against him, you hate him. If you manage him, you hate him less." White Sox ace Mark Buehrle once had this to say about his longtime manager: "There were a fair amount of people who weren't a fan of playing for him, but to hear your manager say, 'You sucked last night,' not just, 'Hey, hang in there, kid,' I kind of enjoy it." Outside of baseball, Ozzie has sort of become a household name. He was one of the first baseball folks to embrace social media, and at the time of this video's release, has over 460,000 Twitter followers and almost 200,000 Instagram followers. Keep in mind, Ozzie is most known for being a baseball manager, not for his playing days, and one who hasn't even held this title in almost a decade. So yeah, pretty impressive. But even before the Twitter sphere, Ozzie was always seemingly in the spotlight, and probably not for reasons that most people would particularly welcome. For example, he once called Chicago Sun-Times columnist Jay Mariotti a fag for criticizing his handling of reliever Sean Tracy.
And that whole thing is just an internet compilation of crap.
Now, Ozzie Guillén would apologize specifically to the LGBTQ community for using this term. However, he did not back down against Mariotti. Instead, he provided us a glimpse into the mind that is Ozzie Guillén, rationalizing that in his native country of Venezuela, calling Mariotti a fag was effectively calling him a coward in a very non-euphemistic sort of way. Now, being a machismo, Latino, Latinx, Hispanic, rice-eating beaner, you might even call me a SeñorTortas. I can certainly attest to this. There are words in English that have a different connotation than the literal translation in Spanish. That said, Guillén did acknowledge after the fact that he was living in another country, and therefore another culture. That effectively did make the word slur. And within that context, he apologized to anyone he might have offended, except Mariotti, of course, because he's Jay Mariotti.
Whatever.
Ozzie once had something to say about Sean Penn when the actor buddied it up with Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez. Now, according to Ozzie, he once showed up drunk to his job interviews with the White Sox.
The guy don't really care.
Though that one kind of seemed to work out well for him. He spoke out against Arizona's strict immigration law back in 2010 and claimed that Latin amateur baseball players are discriminated against by Major League Baseball. And that's just a sliver of who Ozzie Guillén is. Honestly, going through each and every one of Ozzie's so-called controversies, or at least what the media claims is a controversy, is not plausible here, simply because there's just too many of them. Too many that they're all probably worthy of their own book. But without a doubt, the greatest controversy surrounding Ozzie Guillén involves a certain Cuban leader that he just loves. In 2012, not 1 week into his first and only season of managing the train wreck that was the Loria-led Miami Marlins, a Times Magazine interview came out in which Ozzie Guillén reportedly said, "I love Fidel Castro." He would quickly move on from this by then saying, "I respect Fidel Castro." And that was the end of that. He was fired by the Marlins, impaled into a cancel culture casket by the woke mob, and never heard from again. JK. So, what I want to do here is I want to deconstruct, digest, and analyze these comments. I am not looking to defend nor berate Ozzie Guillén. Truth be told, the only ones who can really form a sound opinion on this are old guard Cubans and to a certain extent first generation Cuban Americans. But first we have to clarify two things and not immediately switch our brains into thinking, yeah, we have free speech but not freedom of consequence when it comes to you praising someone I don't like, and yet me be very hypocritical when I praise someone that you don't like because First Amendment, man. Wow, that was long. Number 1. Ozzie Guillén saying what he did before he had even managed one game in the city and state that has by far the largest Cuban population in the United States is just plain stupid. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, that's career suicide over there. It's a no-no topic down there. It's just plain taboo. If he had been going to any other organization that didn't play in South Florida, Guillen most definitely would not have caused quite the stir that he did. But he was in Miami, and he said it, and guess what? He caused a stir. Number 2. As is widely known throughout baseball, Ozzie Guillen is one of the most vocal and upfront individuals the game has ever seen. When he says whatever it is he's going to say, even an apology, it's thus a bit more credible to give him the benefit of the doubt over anybody else for the simple fact that usually everything he's publicly said, he doesn't give a shit what you or I think about him, as Dexter Rogers and Alessandro Miglio argue in Bleacher Report. And anyways, according to Ozzie himself, he's only ever had one regret in his life.
I only apologize in my comments twice. That's why when I'm here, I mean it. I not do this for fake or for my job or for make me look good or better. I'm here because I meant it.
Now, not to make fun of Ozzie, but his thick accent is pretty evident when you hear him talk English. Therefore, you can kind of right off the bat tell, yeah, the connection from Spanish to English may not automatically be there. Then you got this recent Chicago Tribune article from 2020, written by Joe Kelly, who has his own issues as well. Huh, seems everyone has issues. Anyways, the article reads, Guillen can't escape the Fidel Castro comment, and more than 8 years later he has all but given up trying. If only the portrayal of what he said was accurate. In an April 2012 article for Time, Guillen was quoted as saying, I love Fidel Castro, but that wasn't the story. According to Guillen, he talked with the author about many topics in that interview. Bullfighting, one of Guillen's passions, came up, along with the topic of survivability, then politics. With survivability still on his mind, Guillen jumped to the Cuban dictator and said, I love Fidel Castro. English being a second language, he quickly backtracked and said, I respect Fidel Castro. You know why? A lot of people have wanted to kill Fidel Castro for 60 years, but that mother is still here. Even the report in the article said Guillen wanted a do-over after the word love was used. As we've seen, and as you can attest for yourself because I'll leave the links down below to my research, Ozzie Guillen has for the most part been a champion of the Latino community, who he proudly calls his people. And while his track record regarding former President Hugo Chavez of his homeland of Venezuela is spotty at best, this is what Guillen would later explicitly say regarding Fidel Castro. I want them to know I'm against everything 100%. I repeat it again, the way this man been treating people for the last 60 years. Now obviously take everything with a grain of salt. I mean, this could very well be Ozzie just trying to save his own ass, you know? Or if you're a little more trusting or a little more determined to find out the truth, this could be him actually trying to clarify what he had said in the first place. To me, again, not trying to be subjective about this, but instead reading it with an open mind, it's pretty clear that Guillen isn't in awe with Castro the person, as much as he is with the fact that Castro was so hated, and yet no one would dare, or actually could, even lay a finger on him for half a century. If you take Ozzie's original words at face value, simply reading dry text without taking into context just how loud-mouthed Ozzie Guillen is, or how he was saying it, or what he even said in the grand scheme of things, then yeah, any idiot can point to that moment in time and say, ha! Gay! Personally, I think the whole love thing was just one major fuck-up on Ozzie's part, who, as we've seen before, is not exactly the think before you speak type. Thus, this whole situation became cancel culture before cancel culture was, you know, cool. But not really, because remember, Ozzie Guillen didn't get fired right away. He got fired after the end of the 2012 season when Miami was just awful. Sure, maybe ownership was waiting until the end of the season to fire him because of these comments, but unless Sampson admits this, and he might, you know, any baseball fan worth his salt knows that David Sampson also has a big mouth.
1.2 billion! Fuck you!
Unless he admits that this was the number one primary reason for his firing, we'll never know. Now, it is strange that Ozzie hasn't held a managerial job since 2012, but that could also be attributed more to circumstance and opportunity than being full-on blacklisted. And I mean, it's not like he's been completely out of baseball either. Is MLB ready for Ozzie Guillen in 2022? Well, I don't fucking know. As of this video's recording, Major League Baseball isn't even ready to start the goddamn 2022 season. How do I know who it is and isn't ready for it? Anyways, personally, I would like to see Ozzie Guillen back in baseball. And I do believe that a managerial gig is in his near future. I mean, he was reportedly in the running to helm the San Diego Padres this offseason, before it eventually went to Bob Melvin. Remember that Joe Kelly article I mentioned? Well, give it a read. Link is down below. It's very interesting, because aside from going over Guillen's Castro comments, the article also explores how Ozzie Guillen would fare in a predominantly sabermetric run game today. Now, according to Ozzie, it certainly wouldn't be without any pushback from him. And, you know, honestly, I kind of want to see that. That's not to say that Ozzie is 100% against the analytics, just that he's no one's puppet. Given his personality, it's pretty unlikely that he'll let any front office script a game for him. because no one gets in the way of Ozzie Guillen. I am also a firm believer that if given the opportunity again, Ozzie Guillen would succeed now that he has all this information to serve as a tool for him, but not make decisions for him, because Ozzie still needs to be Ozzie. With septuagenarian managers seemingly becoming a trend in baseball today, with guys like Buck Showalter, Dusty Baker, and of course Chicago's own Tony La Russa coming back to manage, it's not too crazy to believe that we will see 57-year-old Ozzie Guillen managing a Major League Baseball sometime soon. Currently, Ozzie is a studio analyst for the Chicago White Sox, you know, the team that he managed for 8 seasons. Now, barring any other DUIs, Tony La Russa will be the White Sox manager for 2022. Beyond that, nothing is publicly known up to this point. People forget that aside from being a sport and a business, baseball is also in the entertainment sector. If we have everyone just following the same script and adopting a full-on sabermetric approach without applying context and different points of views, well then our game will truly fail. It truly will become what outsiders already call it. Baseball, as much as it pains me to say it, will become boring. Baseball, for the sake of its survival, it needs these characters. It needs the Ozzie Guillens of the world. It feeds the dramatic hero-villain subplot, but more than that, it goes against the cookie-cutter mold that we've grown accustomed to seeing for much of the game's history. As a true baseball fan, are you seriously going to tell me that Major League Baseball would be better off without Guillen's antics in today's media landscape? Coming off of its darkest moment in a recent string of freaking embarrassingly dark moments? Ozzie Guillen is a fascinating subject to me because unlike what we're used to in the year 2022, with Ozzie, what you see is what you get. You know, take everything with a grain of salt, like I've said of course, but to me, Ozzie Guillen is someone who for the most part will tell it to you how it is. And if you don't like what he says, well then, in his own words,
Beat it.
I really encourage you guys to watch that entire E60 video. I know comedy is subjective, but if that doesn't make you laugh, then I'm sorry, nothing will. Here's a sit-down interview with Ozzie Guillen from the Chicago sports site, Midway Minute. People really misunderstand who Ozzie really is. I've never been in trouble with anyone in my life. I've never had to talk to MLB about being disciplined. I still see other people working, and when they went through all this stuff, it makes me sad to see these guys who do less than I did in baseball when if anybody ever asks. All I did was 1000% tell the truth. In that same interview, Guillen confesses, one thing that I have learned, it's not always the best thing to be 100% honest, because people like to hear what they want to hear sometimes, and they don't want to hear the truth. When you're honest in this country, some people won't like it, they don't like their widow feelings hurt. Journalist disclaimer, I added the widow part. There's a ton of sit-down interviews on the interweb involving Ozzie Guillen, even after his Castro comments, especially after the Castro comments. Because love him or hate him, when Ozzie Guillen speaks, people tend to listen. Just ask Josh Donaldson.
Like, what do we do around here? You know, like, come on.
You may recognize some of the footage that I'm showing. A lot of it comes from the digital media platform La Vida Baseball, which specializes in giving exclusive access within the Latino baseball community. I encourage you, if you are a baseball fan or even if you're just a general sports fan, to check them out on YouTube and their website. Now, I don't have a partnership or any affiliation with them. I just think they do a really good job at providing fresh insights on the game and the people within the game that we rarely get in mainstream media. If you want to learn more about Ozzie Guillen in particular, who is also a regular contributor on the site, check out their Book of Ozzie Guillen playlist on YouTube. It's only like 30 minutes into the mind of Ozzie Guillen, but it's the 30 minutes that are well worth it. So now let's answer our original question. Was Ozzie Guillen canceled back in 2012? Technically, I believe the answer is no.
How about no?
Now I know this sounds kind of revolutionary, kind of crazy, but going 66-93 after the team spent a guaranteed $194 million in one off season, and after it also debuted its controversial taxpayer-funded stadium, that is proper grounds for termination, especially if your position is being the media scapegoat that is a big league manager. That said, making the comments he made did not help his cause, like at all. It is a little fishy, if you will, that Guillen has not managed a big league clubhouse since 2012. But I ask you, what do you think? Do you think Ozzie has been canceled from Major League Baseball for his Castro comments? Or do you think Ozzie has just not been in the right place at the right time to manage? Let me know down below, and of course, do the usual, guys. Please hit that like button, please share, please subscribe if you do want to see more content like this. To end my video, I leave you with this quote of Ozzie way back from 2006 after that whole gay thing that he had with Mariotti. I won't stop myself from saying what I feel, and I'd rather move to Venezuela, enjoy my money, and leave all of this behind before changing the way I am. I have to continue the same way because I've had plenty of success the way I am, and changing would be hypocritical. Respect, Ozzie. Or should I say, love.